it's Fabi here again. So I'm going to be taking over the common pitfalls in UCAT prep that we want you to avoid. Okay, so I'm going to tell you each pitfall, then at the end I'm going to summarise and tell you what you should do to avoid those things to smash out this UCAT exam. Okay, so the first common pitfall is getting too bogged down on a certain question when you're preparing for the UCAT and when you're actually in the exam. Remember, time is really precious in this exam and it's all about time management. It's all about that pace. If it's taken you more than 45 seconds on a certain question, flag it, move on, okay? Remember, each question has the same value added to it. They're all 1 mark. So whether or not it's taken you 1 minute or 5 seconds, it's still a mark. And what would you rather waste, 5 seconds or a minute? Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is not using the keyboard shortcuts. So in our UCAT ebook, where all of this information was taken from, you can find out which keyboard shortcuts there are, and I'm sure on the forums as well there are probably going to be even more. But making sure that you use those shortcuts to help you move, because it is a very slow software, so using your mouse to click next, whereas you could just keyboard shortcut it, is much faster. Save yourself those few seconds. Something else which is a pitfall in UCAT prep and for the exam is not being consistent with the way that you use your resources. Now, by this what I mean is, if you're going to be using, for quantitative reasoning, you need to be making sure that your mental math skills are really brushed up and you're not relying on that online calculator. Now, where I mean by consistency in resources, some people will be using their own calculator in their hands and then in the exam they'll rely on the online version. No, okay? Be consistent. Our advice is make sure that you only use that online calculator if you absolutely need to. Try and absolutely limit yourself to, I don't know, like 8 goes on the calculator at a time. And again, use those shortcuts, use that number lock and type it away rather than clicking. But the UCAT online calculator tool is very difficult and very slow, so you don't want to be relying on it. But if you are, make sure when you're practicing, again, give yourself calculator tokens, but make sure you're using an online calculator. Don't use a Google one, use an online pop-up one. Don't use your real person calculator. Be consistent with your resources, okay? We want to accurately represent what's going to happen in that exam when you're at home. 2 other pitfalls that a lot of students have been experiencing, and groups before you, it's a tale as old as time, is not using all the functions the quite poor software gives you, but there are some perks and you need to make sure you're using them. For example, make sure you're flagging questions that you're stuck on, okay? So use that flag button. There are shortcuts as well for that flagging option to utilise that time even more. If you're stuck, flag that, move on. The second thing that goes hand in hand with the flagging option is utilising that end check page. So at the end, once you've done all of your questions, it shows you to a summary page of everything that you've done. It will show you which questions you've left blank, which you never should do, guys. That's the one thing that's absolutely essential. Never leave anything blank. But it also shows you which questions you flagged up. Go back to those questions, put down an answer, check if you're happy with it, move on to the next flagged one, okay? So use that flagging option and use that end check page. It's there for you to check. Now, some other common pitfalls include not reading the question properly and not identifying the key information. These are very important in general, but especially so in verbal reasoning. So make sure the first thing you do is you read the question and you skim it for key information. Even in abstract reasoning, you want to read the question first and see whether they're focusing on A or B, or whether it's subtype 3, or whether it's whatever, okay? So make sure you read the question fast, so skim it for that key information and then look at what information you've been given. Another thing is utilize the whiteboard option that they give you. So they say whiteboard, it is a piece of paper in essence because you can't wipe it off, but that's absolutely fine. Make sure you practice that at home as well. So give yourself a pen and paper and use it. And you will get an unlimited amount, or you can request more, so don't feel like you need to, use all the tiny little gaps that you've left, but just make sure you're consistently using those resources. So use a whiteboard at home, use a whiteboard in the exam. It's really, really important. Another thing is making sure that in the exam you are comfortable. If your desk is lopsided before you start, or there's a lot of noise outside, or someone's being very loud, ask for earplugs. Tell them that someone's being very loud. Put that hand up whilst you're thinking for the answer of the next question. Okay? Make sure that your environment is very, very good for you so that you can focus and absolutely ace it. Now, this next pitfall is something I'm sure we've all done at least once in our lives, but try to understand when you're doing it so that you can change. So a lot of people will focus on their strengths and ignore their weaknesses. So if you're really good at quantitative reasoning, try and do a little less of it and focus on your worst one. Maybe it's decision making. Maybe it's verbal reasoning. Try and accept, you're doing better in one, you're doing worse in another. Use all of your time very wisely, okay? So try and find out what are your strong parts and what are your weak areas, and focus on the weak areas at the expense of the stronger ones. And then once the balance comes back up, reassess. Another thing is, do not do a mock before the real exam. It's only going to stress you out, it's going to panic you, it very rarely does any good. So what we recommend is making sure that you've staggered where you're doing these mocks and doing them soon enough that it makes it a real representative of the work that you've done, but not too soon that if things go wrong, you don't have enough time to build your confidence and to work on them. So I would probably recommend doing it, maybe 4 to 5 days before the actual exam, so that you know what to do in those last 4 days to help yourself even more based on that mock. The night before, try and chill out. Do a bit of work during the day, of course, but in that evening before that exam, try and take it easy. Your mind has a lot of information. It's probably quite tired and worked up already. There's nothing that you will do in that evening that's going to make you work better. So just relax, have a nice meal, have your favourite, book in hand, watch your funniest show, and just unwind. Now, the 2 final pitfalls that I want to point out to you guys are not answering every single question. So you must make sure you do that, because a guess still could get you that mark, whereas no answer will not get you that mark, not even a little chance, okay? So every single question, even if you're struggling for time, literally put a random letter down, okay? And finally, the biggest pitfall that I think people go through is thinking that this is an exam you can't prepare for, which is a lie, okay guys? You can prepare for this. Practice, 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 okay? Read as much as you can. For example, abstract reasoning is all about pattern recognition. think about every single time you do an abstract reasoning question, you are doing pattern recognition. You are adding those questions to your own bank. So actually, that is perfect. That is the exact reason, the exact argument against that you can't practice for this exam, that you can't prepare for it. You really can. So make sure you use our UCAT ebook. Make sure you really understand these videos. If you have any questions, send us a message, send us an email. We will happily reply and help you guys out. Look at the UCAT website for resources, see what they've got. Look at other free question banks. Use all the free resources out there available to help you absolutely smash this, guys. Okay, so a quick summary of all the things you should be doing based on the things that most people have done wrong. Okay, so answer every single question you have. Don't spend too much time on harder questions as opposed to easier questions. They're all worth the same amount of marks. Practice, practice, practice. It does show who does practice. Okay? Use the shortcuts available to you on the software. Use Numlock. Use the Control F keys. Use everything that you can to help you. Be consistent with your resources at home. Use that whiteboard option. Use it at home in your practice so you know how it works. You know how to utilize that time. Be stingy with your calculator usage and make sure that if you're practicing at home, it is with that online tool. Do not do a mock exam the night before your exam, okay? It's only going to work you up and it's not going to be helpful. Do focus on your weak points. It's really difficult and no one wants to do it, but it's something that will make you better. So if you know you're really good at abstract reasoning, focus on verbal reasoning until you're comfortable that that is the same level that you can then focus on something else. Point 9, make sure that you read the question properly and skim for that key information. Especially in verbal reasoning, you should not be reading the passage until you've skim read the question for the keywords. And those are the things that you need to be making sure you're doing to absolutely put your best foot forward in this exam. Now, I wish you guys the best of luck, and I know that you're going to absolutely smash it because you're here putting in that extra work, looking at these videos, reading that UCAT ebook, and I'm very, very proud of all the work that you're putting through. I know it's really tough and it's a horrible process to be doing in summer. Make sure that you do spend your time wisely. Use some time to go out with your friends, go read a book, spend time with family, do things to calm you down during this stressful period. Send us a message if you have any questions about any of the content that we've put out and we'll happily help you guys out. And again, best of luck. Bye guys.